What's going on, everybody? This is your man, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, or Professor Stewart, depending on how you know me. And we are back for another edition of Dope People on the Dope People Podcast, where we talk to dope people doing dope things. And today is no exception. We have the one, the only, all the way from New York City, Miss Aneesha Jacko, also known as Principal Jacko. Principal Jacko to the building.
What's going on?
Everything is going on. Everything is going on. Look, before we get going with you and bring you in, let me go through your bio so the people know who I have as my guest today, because on Dope People, we truly do talk to some of the most amazing people in education today, right? Primarily education, educational leaders of all sorts. And you are raising the bar. So Aneesha Jacko is an authentic, bold, and compassionate leader with over 20 years of instructional coaching, operational planning, administrative, and financial management experience in a large urban school district. Receiving her undergrad from Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. That's the other HU. I'm just messing with it. My daughter went to the other HU, Howard.
So did my grandfather and my aunt.
You know, okay, all right. So just a little. I poked a little bit. Receiving her undergraduate degree from Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, she then matriculated to, I hope I say this right, Touro College.
Yes.
And received her master's degree in special ed and early childhood education. Principal Jacko also earned degrees from Long Island University, Brooklyn campus, specializing in literacy, and Long Island University CW Post in educational leadership. Principal Jacko is president and owner of The Results Are In LLC, whose goal is to connect the world through meaningful interactions and communication. Principal Jacko is an active community leader, serving in a number of organizations for over 20 years. Jacko serves as a licensed minister at the Greater Allen AME Cathedral of New York. Additionally, she collaborates with leaders from across the globe with Off School Ground, shout out to OSG, to support and impact schools and communities. She is an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and Jack and Jill of America. And get this, Principal Jacko is in the midst of publishing her first book in a series of books, Audacity to Speak, dedicated to helping people to live the life of their dreams. Not only that, but as we might expect, Principal Jacko is married with 2 sons. Principal Jacko to the show. Wow. That is impressive. How does it feel to hear that?
I'm like, who is that?
I know, right?
It's crazy.
Okay. Well, that is who you are on paper. That's
right.
Cool and all. But that doesn't really tell us who you are. We want to peel back the layers. We have a unique method of finding out who people are on Dope People. And we like to play a game of this or that. Are you familiar with this or that?
Yes, bring it on.
All right, here we go. All right, so we're just going to dig in. You pick one. Just so you know, this is this or that, not this, that, or both. So you got to pick one, all right? Here we go. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Markers or crayons?
Crayons.
Blinds or curtains?
Curtains.
Day or night?
Night.
Text message or call?
Call.
Library or museums?
Library.
Book or movie?
Book.
Pizza or hot dog?
Pizza. Let's go. New York to Chicago.
All right. Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
Okay. Morning or evening?
Evening.
Teachers or parents?
Parents.
All right. Love or money?
Love.
Everybody says love. Only a couple of people have the audacity to say something else. But okay, I'll let you slide. Bus or train?
Train.
Country or city?
City.
HBCU or PWI?
HBCU, baby. You know, I have to finish that.
Pre-pandemic learning or post-pandemic learning?
Post all day.
All right, all right. Let's talk about that last one. What you were emphatic about the post.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that? What turns you up about post-pandemic learning versus pre-pandemic learning?
When I think about the difference between pre and post, it's simply uncovering all of the things that we thought we knew, we were exposed post. And so it equalized us, the trauma. We were equalized. And so it didn't matter how much money you had, your zip code, you had to stay inside and figure out a new way. Sort of similar to, I remember working in a school during 9/11 in the city. The city changed. It was like a quiet moratorium, right? You just had that pause of reflection. And that's what I believe post-pandemic has done. It's helped us to peel that layer back of inequity and really showing what we are not doing for those who are at the least and who are at the other end. We all need to do some work. We all became new teachers. We had to figure some things out. And so I celebrate that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I became a new principal in the post. I became a new principal in the pandemic. I started a new position of leadership. And so, yes.
Congratulations.
I became a licensed minister in the post.
Really?
Yes.
It sent not only you, but you think it just sent people back to reimagine themselves.
What are you doing? What are you doing here? We all had to ask that question. What if? Who's going to raise my children if I'm not here?
Yeah.
What values have I set? And who am I? What am I doing? What are we doing? Right?
Good stuff. Yeah. No, I think you're right. 100%. I appreciate that time to sit down, like leading up into the pandemic. Reminded that was NBA All-Star was in Chicago that year, and there was so much going on. And I remember saying before Chicago got shut down, man, we need to slow down. We're like, this is ridiculous. There's no way I can maintain at this rate.
Right.
Where we were moving. It was like and I didn't see a slowdown happening. Like, when do we slow down? Like, and then a few weeks later, literally shut down. And I was like, man, we needed that because we were about to burn out. I felt like we were about to just explode. So
for sure.
I get that. Hey, listen, we're gonna dig into this this is an amazing conversation already. You and I just met virtually
Yes.
I'm in Chicago. You're in New York.
New York.
We met through OSG, Off School Grounds.
Yes.
And I feel like I know you a little bit, but I'm also at that stage in life. I don't need no new friends.
Word.
But OSG has become my new family. This is true. But who were you, Jacko? 6th grade through 12th grade. What kind of student were you? What kind of young person were you? Tell us who you were. 6th to 12th
You
grade.
know, 6th to 12th grade. Oh my goodness. You know, I felt like I was invisible. You know, and when I think about audacity to speak, it's really thinking about racial battle fatigue, how you can be in a setting and never see yourself. And I didn't realize that until I went to Hampton. So to never have a teacher who looked like you, for me, I thrived because of my music background. And so I was afforded the opportunity to go to a middle school that was for music talent. I had to audition.
Well, what were you? Singer, dancer,
I was a
rapper?
piano. I played the piano. I played the piano. And because obviously you can't go to the band and play the piano, I learned to play the tenor sax. Wow. And so I went to school in Coney Island. I played the tenor saxophone, and that afforded me the opportunity in high school to play in an all-city marching band. I got accepted to that. Wow. So when I think of 6 to 12, so no, I didn't see myself in school, and I was always in top classes, but it was my love for music that really, it got me excited about school. So in that particular school, it was a gifted and talented. So you had to spend more time in your talent. So instead of one class a week, you had double periods of music. I mean, who wouldn't want to do what they love? Right?
Absolutely.
So, and then of course, in high school, I was a cheerleader. I played tennis. So I did get to do some fun things, you know, get a bacon, egg, and cheese. I never cut class, but I would say my extracurricular activities was something I can really lean into as like a joy between 6 and 12.
Did you said you didn't see yourself in school, but when did you realize that education was for you? Like, what did you, so you studied music when you went away to college? Is that what you did?
No, it's so interesting. I did get a scholarship to play in the band, but I didn't want to do that anymore.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm like, oh man, I should have stayed playing the sax. I majored in psychology.
That's what you say, but then we wouldn't, maybe if you're playing the sax, maybe we wouldn't have this book that's about to come out.
I know.
Maybe you wouldn't be a principal. Maybe you are, well, it's clear to me that you're doing exactly what God has planned for you. So what kind of grades did you get middle school through high school? You were getting A's and B's or what?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the top 10%. I graduated top 10% of my class. But I enjoyed school, but I also was raised by my aunt, who was a guidance counselor. So I knew not to cut because I knew she knew how to read my report card.
You knew what those absences were.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You didn't miss no school. Why you got 13 absences in this class? Like, hold up. What is...
You know, it's so funny, Stu. I remember my senior year, I had calculus. I was taking AP classes. And my aunt asked me, you don't have no homework? I'm like, yeah, I did it. Don't you know? I found out once I graduated college, she called my teacher because I never understood why out of all these people in class, he would come check my homework.
Wow.
I'm like, that's disrespectful. But she did tell me, but she told me as a guidance counselor, and I get it now, that sometimes people leave you alone your senior year, and that's when you mess up and you can fail. And so I'm grateful for that on me because I was able to finish college in 3 years because I had all my credits from high school.
Your AP, you had some AP classes, things like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
So you said something, I don't want to make light of it. You said you didn't feel seen.
No.
How did that show up in the classroom? Like, what, can you dig in a little? Because I think it was Power, Principal Power was on Dope People.
And she went to Hampton.
Yeah, she said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She went a whole school year and teacher never called on her.
Yeah.
She felt invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe that a little bit more? What were your feelings? Did you have anxiety going into class? Was it all of your classes? Was it just in class? Was it socially? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
I think it's interesting because I think the trauma happened in elementary school. So I think by the time 6 to 12, I was already conditioned to be quiet and not to use my voice because I was a visual learner. So I remember getting in trouble in 4th grade. Before the spelling test, I would write down all of the words behind the paper. And then when the teacher said the word, I would turn it over, cross it out, and write it because that's how I remember it.
Mm.
And so, getting in trouble because sometimes I can go on a tangent. We were learning about metaphors, and I brought in the salt Morton's, and it said, when it rains, it pours.
Mm.
And she was like, that's not what we're talking about. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But it was kind of, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I think my passion in early childhood comes from, because you can learn from your environment. Like, you should be able to, if there are children who need to space out, to go someplace, give them someplace to go.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it felt like you didn't have a voice. And it felt like you were getting graded on a product, but not on who you are.
Mm.
And not talking to me.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. I experienced that. So I was a classroom teacher in Chicago Public Schools for about 15 years before retiring from Chicago Public Schools to do my own thing, which is still in education, but decided to be a vendor, create my own curriculum and sell it globally, right? But I did find myself being one of those teachers that only called on certain kids, the kids who were most active, most vocal. And hindsight is 2020. I realized that I dismissed a lot of students that sat in the back, that didn't cause trouble, that didn't say much. Then I let them be. I know I've let them be. And I wonder now, I wonder how that made those young people feel, that I didn't take the extra step, the extra initiative to reach out to them. And how did that impact you deciding to get into education?
It's fascinating. I believe it wasn't so much education, but more of psychology. I think it made me become a student of what school is all about. And so I majored in psychology, and then I went back to school for school psych. And then, similar to what you asked me in the beginning of your questions, was about, post-pandemic. So when 9/11 happened, I was like, I don't want to be a school psychologist. I want to just teach kindergarten like my favorite teacher. And that prompted me to want to study, how do children begin to read? How do they begin? And so that's why I had early childhood and special ed and literacy. I would go to school at night for literacy and on the weekend for early childhood special ed, because I needed to know, I guess, what happened and how do I ensure that doesn't happen to other children? And I do believe that's why I go so hard. because I know how important it is. And being a kindergarten teacher was my absolute favorite job. To have a child come to you at 5 and leave you reading and writing and speaking critically, I think that is something we should have for all children.
Do you, I gave, and during this or that, I posed teachers or parents. You remember your response?
Parents.
Parents.
Yes.
There's an ongoing debate in the country right now about education and where the responsibility lies when it comes to young people coming in. There's this conversation around pre-K, early childhood, preschool, literacy at a young age. My stance is the onus is on parents. I get, conflict from people saying, no, parents aren't equipped to do that. It's on teachers, it's on the school systems. And you just talked about the feeling that you get to get a 5-year-old in the beginning who doesn't have strong reading comprehension skills, but they leave you strong.
Yes.
Where are you in this debate? How much of a role, or how much do you expect from parents versus is it up to the schools and teachers to be responsible for this? What's your take on this?
So being a mom, I would say it's all on teachers. Being a mom, I would say it has to be a partnership. And I believe as the principal, my first constituent that I went to talk to were parents, because I needed them to know who I was and what my ask of them was going to be. And I believe by training our parents and teaching them what to look for, how to do this, what kind of environment to have at home, then that becomes ready for parents then to support school. And when you have parents that galvanize and support a school, that school's going to be phenomenal.
Wow, that's a whole conversation in itself about strategies to engage communities of families and parents that normally are disengaged. I'm super
Well, because there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma in schools. A big piece of my conversation with parents was about reimagining what school was like for them. Like some of the parents didn't have good experiences in my school.
Yeah.
So I had to have them in my office and say, I'm sorry that happened to you, but this is what we're going to do. And I believe when we have informed parents who are ready to help a school, helping the teachers comes easy because now they're on board. They're going to support with some resources. And I don't know any teacher who doesn't want some extra crayons.
I know that's right. Facts, yeah.
But I think parents as partners is key, because it goes without question. Teachers are the key to moving a school, but you have to have your parents on board.
In a recent OSG meetup, a statistic was given that approximately 87%, 84%, 80-ish% of fourth graders, Black male fourth graders.
Yeah, 87%.
87% are not proficient at reading. When you hear that, what runs through your mind?
I look at my 2 boys at home who are 9 and 11. My son is in 4th grade right now. And that's life or death. And that's the state of emergency.
So I have 3 essential questions for every conversation. And they normally go, what do you love about education? What's kind of got you scratching your head, keeping you up at night? And what's the future of education from your perspective? In this episode, first time ever, I'm going to flip that. I want to start with, what's the future of education from your perspective? What is the What does a school look like? What does it need to be in order to check all the boxes and to be quote unquote doing it right?
Well, I would say number one, universal screening for all children.
Okay.
Don't
What is
wait
that? What
till
is
you,
that?
yeah. So my background in school psychology, all students should be assessed on their gifts.
Okay.
Because we need to cultivate genius. You got to know who a child is. If they learn best auditory, so they need to go into that. They love music, let's build that, right? I say, why do we have to wait to high school to learn a career? Why can't we learn as a child through play, right? We play dress up in pre-K, and then you get to dress up in high school to go on an interview. It doesn't make sense, right? And so if we reimagine school, I would say, let's take it to the Harlem Renaissance, where we had this intersection of politics and music and art, right? And so we had Leroy Campbell come into our school to teach the students about art. And their artwork was hanging up in Times Square last year, right? So bringing in the outside into school and really learning as a village, and not coming into schools that could be confused as a hospital or a jail. Why is it the same smell and paint? So why don't we start with that environment? Wouldn't it have been great to take a group of students to NASA to watch the launch?
Yeah. And
understand what a sonic boom really sounds like? It's not just a cartoon character, right? And so in thinking about that, that's what I believe school of the future is. Like, aren't we ready for the Jetsons? Where's the backpack? We watched that 20 years ago.
That's right.
How are we creating the infrastructure of doing that, bringing college to our early childhood classes? That's what I see.
Before I go to the other questions, central questions, I want to interject. And I get to this. This is the beauty of owning your own stuff. You can do what you want to do when you want to do it.
Remix.
And I heard one. I think it was Dame. It may have been Dame.
Yeah.
Saying, can somebody fire you from your job? And no, nobody can fire me. Nobody can fire me. So I get to switch it up. School principals,
yes,
school superintendents.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say this. This is my personal opinion on dope people. There are a lot of school principals, school superintendents who are sitting in those positions because they're tired of kids and they want to collect their paychecks. They want their pension. They want their pension to be straight. And they don't push the needle. They don't push the envelope. They don't move the needle. What can we say? What can you say to those school leaders who are prohibiting the advancement of our young people? What would you say to them to make them reevaluate why they're sitting in that seat?
That seems so foreign to me because I don't know those people.
So,
but I would say,
imagine you're meeting a principal like that from a big city in the Midwest.
Okay. I'm sensing some trauma. Because here's the thing, it goes both ways. The system was set up to do what the system is doing. So to just look at one area, that's faulty. And I'm going to push you because let's open that whole building up and who's doing what. Let's check attendance. Who's showing up?
Not just
Who's
students.
showing up? And it's not just the students. We put so much on that. So I would say to you, how are the children? And that's how my superintendent started this school year. How are the children? Because if you know how the children are, you'll know how the adults are. And so that's when we think about the mental health, right? If the students aren't doing well, are the adults? And so if I'm just learning my phonics and how to spell correctly, have we tapped into some of the adults who have some emotional issues? And maybe no one helped their trauma, so they don't know that's possible. So I would say to you, as a community, let's not single anybody out. How are the children? And then let's start there.
Okay. That's useful information.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So what keeps you up at night about education? What's like got you biting your fingernails and got you worried at night?
I think what keeps me up, and I'm not a worrier, so I won't receive that. But one of the things I'm focused on is making sure I have the appropriate funding to do the things that I know my kids need. I don't get enough money to choose between a debate program, going on sufficient trips with a nice limo, making kids feel that experience. So that keeps me up. I want to give my children in my school the same experiences I give my own children.
That's dope. That's
yeah.
dope.
So that's what keeps me up.
Yeah.
And making sure that I'm meeting the needs of my staff. Like managing over 85 people, that's no easy feat.
No, all those personalities. Wow.
Yeah.
While attempting to keep your own sanity.
Correct. And so when we think about how are the children, you got to have that self-check as well. Like, am I okay?
Yeah. Self-care. I hear
self-care.
Principal Glow talks about that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And D Nice is always talking about self-care.
I mean, I cannot tell you, being the last name Jacko, I went to see the Michael Jackson play, and it was brilliant because so who's checking on the leaders, right? That's what keeps, like, who's checking on each other? There's a lot of accountability, but who's truly checking in on the system that was created to be the system that is doing exactly what the system was created to be?
Wow. Yeah. That's an important piece. Having said that, what is getting you fired up and excited about coming into the building every day? You're in the building right now on a day off.
In the building.
Something's got you excited to get up and be like, yo, I got to go do this work. What is that driving you?
You know what? I have teachers who started last year, and I made it my business to make sure that I gave them a good start. Because if you're going to start in a pandemic, I'm going to make sure that's the best decision of your life. And so one of our teachers their kids started at a 30% reading level and ended at I'm going to give a 90%. It was 88 point something. Yeah. But 90% of her students left reading in 5th grade in a pandemic.
Yeah.
And some of our students in 4th grade outperformed the city. And one of our 12 students who has an IEP scored a level 4. So don't tell me what's possible.
That's right. That's right.
So what I'm excited about is the growth.
Okay.
And meeting people where they are.
Okay.
And pushing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. You're getting them kind of results. It's like,
yeah,
do that again. Yeah, let's do that again. Come on.
And another one. And another
one. And I would imagine the kids get excited about those results as well.
Well, that's what the work is this year. It's the student agency, helping them to see that they have to take ownership of their learning. You don't have to wait and go get what you need.
That's right. Good stuff. Hey,
Yeah.
we're coming up on the end of our episode, but you got a lot of stuff happening
I do.
in your world. You got a book coming out.
Yes.
The Audacity to Speak.
Audacity. Yes.
Where did this book come from? Why this book is the question. Why this book? Talk about it.
Well, it's interesting because in the middle of a pandemic, I met over 100 principals, and I was inspired. And I met Dennis, I met Dame, and they asked me, "What do you dream about?" And I was stuck. It's like, dream? But I don't need a dream. Who's dreaming? But in thinking about that question, there was a prayer by Dr. Cologne. I'm calling him Dr. Cologne because he'll be done soon.
I met him on
Yes.
the meetup a couple of times.
But
Yeah.
you know, he prayed a prayer, Pastor Cologne, and he said, "Have the audacity of Aneesha." And I was like, what in the world? I was crying because at the time I was going through stuff. And I was like, that was prophetic. I'm using that. And so I stayed by the beach one day and I wrote like 60 pages.
In one day.
And it
was just flowing.
I stayed.
Couldn't
flowing.
stop writing if you wanted to.
Couldn't stop. And so 2 years later, I was able to work with a team and get this out, because I had to unmute.
But where did that come
time
from?
to unmute.
Where did this? So I think there's something missing, like this idea that you were muted. You talked about feeling unseen, but where did this idea of being muted come? Were you muted? Like, what is that? Talk about, and maybe I guess you need to get the book, but were you often just quiet? Or did you feel like did people take advantage of you? Were they running over you? What is this idea of being muted that now you have the audacity to speak?
It's really about confidence. Like, if you're not called on in class ever, you don't know if what you're saying is what you're saying. Right. And then, being raised in a church, you always had to have the part in the Christmas play. Right. So I felt really comfortable speaking in front of a crowd at church, but in school, why was I not included? And there's so many adults who don't feel included, and being on Clubhouse changed my life because I was in quarantine, isolated from my kids during Christmas. And I was just like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to see my kids at Christmas. And meeting this whole community on Clubhouse from just speaking changed my entire world. And so there's so many movements. There's so many people that I've met just from speaking. And you are one.
Yeah, you as well.
Right? And just simply just talking and people saying, oh, you pretty, you know what you're talking about.
That's right. That's right.
And so, like, not hearing that ever, it's like validating. And just like, goodness, what if we empowered our children to learn what I had to wait for? Right? That I know I can. Or even in the whiz, right? That courage.
Yeah. I am excited to get my hands on a copy. More than that, though, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I'm hopeful that when I get the book, that there are some actionable items that I can implement and test, not only in the groups of young people that I interact with, but in my own children.
For sure. That's my specialty.
I have a 8th grader. My son is in 8th grade. And for those who don't know, I'm not a short guy. I'm a relatively tall gentleman. I stand 6'6". And my son, who is in 8th grade, is standing about 6'2", 6'3".
Oh my God.
And but with
Wow.
that, you know, he's a very quiet young man because he hasn't quite developed the confidence to be in his body yet. So that comes, you know, he's huge feet, huge hands, huge guy.
Yeah.
Kids
He's
are
a silent giant.
silent giant. Kids are mean. They say
Yes.
terrible things.
Yes.
And so he has to find his voice. He is finding his voice.
He's got to have my book. I'm going to send him a copy.
Come through, Jacko. Come through, Jacko.
He's going to be my student.
Awesome.
That's my specialty.
Awesome. Yeah. And he's I love him. I love him to life. I love him to life, but I want him to use his voice because obviously his dad has no problem today in speaking up in any environment. So I hope that he gains that confidence. What do you want to say to listeners that we haven't said yet today that you think is important? Because this will be viewed for generations to come all over the world. What's something that you want to say to folks in this moment, in this interview, that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, one, I would say go to audacitytospeak.com because I not only give myself a platform, but I create space for all of those who have supported me in this journey. And I think it's equally as important to give them extend gratitude. But I think one of the things I need to let you know is that starting your day with gratitude, every miracle morning, having an affirmation, and understanding that everything is right about you. You are created just the way you are supposed to, and no one is supposed to be like you. And so I would say, Booker T would say, to do a common thing in an uncommon way is excellence. And so, you know, it's only right that I would share that piece because I never fit in. And now I'm realizing I wasn't supposed to.
No, you were born to stand
I
out.
wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
And so, you know, keep being different.
Yeah.
Keep being you.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
When the leader realizes that they're the leader because they don't conform and they don't fit in. True leadership.
Woo!
Right there. That's
freedom.
That's freedom.
That's freedom.
And you know it, you realize it, and then you embrace it and accept it for yourself.
And don't get a community who's going to not protect you, but stand with you. Those are some dope people.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Principal Aneesha Jacko, thank you for being on Dope People today.
Thank you.
You are officially dope stamped by us as Dope People. You didn't need it. Matter of fact, and this is
listen. Where's my pen?
Yes, you gotta get you a Dope People pen. But here's the thing. Here's what you're helping me. You brought this out right now. What I'm about to say.
Reciprocity. Let's go.
You brought this out. So listen. You don't get dope stamped for being on here. You're already dope. You just be dope first. Just be dope, and we'll find you.
Ooh.
Just be excellent, and the people will find your excellence. Just be wealthy, be healthy, be that first, and the action behind it will show, will come, will follow. You don't wait to be excellent. You just be excellent in all that you can and do today. You don't wait to get rich and wealthy. You be rich and wealthy today, and it will show. Jacko, continue to use your voice. You clearly are a leader, head and shoulders above the pack.
It's shoulders, knees, and toes.
It's obvious.
Amen.
And I'm glad you realize it.
I'm learning too.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do.
I'm on a journey.
You are definitely leading the way. We thank you for coming on Dope People today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To all of our listeners, you already know what it is. You know where to find us. Until next time, y'all. Peace.